much. With God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, peace be unto everyone. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, my dear brother David, and your team that helped us this to be a comfortable process. Thank you. I'm very humbled to be in this space, but I'm also very comfortable because interfaith and just dialogue in general, but when it's a diverse dialogue, is a very comfortable space for me. But every time that I'm in such distinguished places as this, I'm kind of taken aback and thinking, how did Laila get here? So as he said, I feel like I have to say this before I begin my purposeful words. I have to give credit to my grandfather's grandmother, who was my great-grandmother, and her name was Peggy. And I think it is very potent now for me to do that because of what we have dealt with in this documentary just now and what we talked about yesterday. My grandmother Peggy, I never met her, but some of my elder cousins, and specifically my Aunt Raya, told me about her. And she was a slave. And the only thing that we really know is that she was a slave. Her name was Peggy, but she became Muslim with W.D. Farad and changed her name to Thuraya Omar. But what we know, what stays in my mind, is the story that she said she had the responsibility of working in the house as a slave. And the master was her father. And so she passed this story down, and she shared the story of a lynching, because she vividly remembered that she was ironing and helping to dress, quote, her half-sisters, because they were going to a picnic, to a party. When they came back from this party, she had to undress them and prepare them for the evening, and they were laughing because they had killed a nigga. Because I don't usually say that word, but we're in this space. And she passed that story on. Why, I don't know, because I never got it firsthand. But how it has impacted me is because I'm a mother. I have 3 adult children and 9 grandchildren and 1 great-grandson. And it's a blessing. And I know a praying mother, because my children live in America. My sons live in America. So I know what it means to pray. And I say to myself, when I think about my grandmother Peggy, that she must have been praying real hard. Because look at what happened to her grandson Elijah. And look at what has happened to her great grandson Imam Wadah Muhammad. Unbelievable. So I just had to share that. That wasn't what I was supposed to do, but this is what I did. And so now, with your permission, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. God is greater. God is greater. God is greater. Greater than what? Greater than anything we could imagine. Greater than anything we have. Greater than anything we could desire to have. God is greater. God is and always has been the powerful, the most powerful, And African Americans have known that. I'm gonna be honest, this is a personal space in here because y'all took me there yesterday. I don't do well with reading. I do well with talking, but I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do here. I'll get back to my space. African American interfaith relations. After researching and Googling, honestly, it is really not much. So I said, I'm going to tell this experience by my life experience and by observed experiences of others, other African American faith people that I have had experiences with. For example, I have a Methodist sister, African American, and she and I bonded over a shared pain of domestic violence. We both, they say, survived it, but I say that we experienced it and now we're thriving, and now we are sharing that experience with other, not just women, but families, so that they can understand this learned behavior. This is how we connected. But what sealed the bond was the faith that got us through that. And we recognized that in each other. And we began to work together. And so I would invite her to places and to events that we were doing as Muslims. And then she would invite me. And it grew to the point that the most memorable time for us was when we were standing on the south side of Chicago in the evening, in the hood, and purposely we made it at that time. Muslims, Christians, Jewish women, non-denominational, but all people of faith, and we were praying for the many black children that were killed in the street for no reason. We cried together, we prayed together, and then we planned together. And this was about 10 years ago. So when I think about my experience as an African American Muslim woman, my mind firstly goes to Dr. Marcy Richards, to Marcy as I call her, the president of Fierce Women of Faith. But when thinking on the subject, I had to go to the space that does not really include the experience of just African Americans, because the bulk of my interfaith experience, when you talk about it in a literal way, the bulk of my interfaith experience has been my interfaith experience with the folklore, as our brother mentioned the other day. And the folklore movement was founded and started by a non-African American, but a woman that had the same color inside. Her and Marcy are the same race inside. And my experience with the folklore, unlike my experience with Marcy, was that I hesitated a little bit when Imam Muhammad, my father, said we would be in this dialogue with Catholics. Now, I wasn't unfamiliar with Catholics because I came from 6 generations of Muslims, but I also came from the womb that bore me. My mother was raised Catholic, and all my aunts are nice, like typical Catholic ladies. So I knew Catholics, but I couldn't get past Kiara and her race. So I asked my father, why are we doing this? And he gave me his reasoning, and he gave us as a community his reasoning. One, that he said that Lady Kiara and him, that their spirits connected, that he felt her spirit. And this is why I began with Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, because any spirit that hears a beautiful call saying God is greater is going to connect. And I think that African Americans, people of faith and not of faith, that our genetic, our genes, like Dr. Sierra Lincoln said, that is in us already because of someone who said that call. People like Bilal. Bilal was the caller of that prayer. Bilal was a slave. And I feel that that spirit is in us. So this is what my experience has been, that African American interfaith is just that. We move on the spirit. We connect on the spirit. Now, I'm sure many other people do, but this is my experience. And this is also the experience that people do give us African Americans credit for. Because they say, you're spiritual people. And sometimes they say it in a negative way. However, God breathed of his spirit into each and every one of us. That's what we Muslims say. And sometimes I get into debates with my Muslim brothers and sisters because I say that a lot. Because I tend to think that we don't say it as much because we think we're going to be confused. But there is no confusion. God is in every single one of us. And that's what connects us, and that's what me and Marcy had, and that's what Imam Muhammad and Kiara had, and that's what I feel in this room. That spirit, that faith, that connector. I'm an educator by profession, and it's the little ones, early childhood development. They're little sponges, and you can get them before they're gotten, and you can teach them. And I think also it's because I had a wonderful teacher in public school named Mrs. Moore, and I came by her because of the interesting dynamics of my family. My father was put out, they call it, from the Nation of Islam. And when he was put out, we were put out. And so I had to leave the school, the University of Islam, and go to Enrico Fermi, the public school. And Enrico Fermi, the public school, like I said, Mrs. Moore, she was a mother. She was wonderful. I can see her right now to this day, and she's the reason I wanted to be a teacher, because she loved me. Again, that spirit. I didn't look at her and say, oh, well, she's not like my teacher at the university. She doesn't have a scarf on. No, I just felt her spirit. And she loved me and she taught me. And I was blessed because I had a father who was very trusting and of his Lord, and very trusting of his belief. He wasn't afraid to lose his child. He wasn't afraid that he could be converted or that I could be converted. So when it came time for the Christmas program, he said, yes, you can be in it. He said, we love Mother Mary and Christ Jesus. And I think that way 50 years ago, I'm telling my age, I'm not 50, I'm 59, but all that long time ago, when I was at Enrico Fermi, that's one of the things that got me here. That's what I'm standing on, because I knew I could stand next to people that didn't believe like me. And I was Laila Muhammad, and I stood out. I felt alone many times. But I felt one on the Christmas pageant stage. I didn't have to stay home that day like some of our parents do. And I think that's why I can really feel comfortable in spaces like this. So why am I saying that? Because I think that's one of the keys to unlocking the door, the painful door, like we were looking at here, that door. One of the keys to unlocking it is to start with our children, to teach them that it is about the character, it is about the spirit, it is about what you don't see. And especially to teach them what we say we believe. And I'm going to say again, because I'm a Muslim, we believe that God breathed of his spirit into each and every one of us. So tell your children that. Tell our children that. And instead of saying, well, what color is your teacher? Oh, that little boy, he did what to you? So what color was he? Right. You know, this is where we should start. And forgive me, but my parents raised me to think that if I had an opinion, I could give my opinion. So I'm getting ready to give my opinion. I think that it's quite simple, because us early childhood development teachers of preschools, my professor always said, keep it simple, KISS. I ain't gonna tell you what the last S stand for. Some of y'all probably already know. And she would just say, you just keep it simple. So, real simple. When our children are old enough to talk, and I'm speaking the faith community, and we're talking about God, and we're talking about the prophets, and we're talking about, as the Muslims say, the companions, as the Sahabas, and the Christians, the saints. When we're talking about these people, instead of painting pictures of woolly hair, oh no, it's straight hair, oh no, it's black, no, it's white. Instead of doing that, how about speak of the character? How about talk about what that individual that you want your child to love, or what that entity that you want your child to love, what was the spirit of that person or of that thing? Even with God, too many of us faith community people tell our kids, you're going to hell. But I thought God loved me. How you tell a child that if you tell a little story, you're going to hell and you're going to burn? What is the character of God? What are you telling your child? So I think that it's just that simple. We've been talking about things that have literally made my stomach turn. That documentary, and that was the first time I saw it. I've seen clips of those different things, but I had not seen that. And I think that it's real simple. We have these problems in and without of the faith community because of racism. And the racism starts in the home. My brother said we were family. And when you find little kids acting up, you could trace it back to the home. So it starts in the home. And if we stop coloring our Bible and our Quran, our children will be much better off. And I have not done what I was supposed to do because I'm with my brothers and sisters and I felt like I was at home. So now I'm going to stop, but I am going to go to my final part that I have written here, and it actually, I hope I find it, is a poem. And my poetry came to me at a time when I was dealing with domestic violence, dealing with black sons on the street, and you worried if your baby gonna come home, or you worried if he gonna do something he shouldn't be doing out there. So I started writing as a therapy to myself, for myself. But it took me to just writing whenever the spirit hit me. So this poem I wrote after being in Rome, as my brother Imam Ronald Shahid mentioned yesterday, and he doesn't know this. That's why I'm gonna really try to find it here. I have it, I know I put it in here. I wrote this poem after his lecture. Remember you were the keynote? I sure did. And I didn't think about it until you were talking yesterday. And so now I gotta find it here. Oh man. Please excuse me, you all. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay, so it says that I wrote this poem after attending the Interfaith event in Rome, Italy. Okay, so because this is what I'm feeling now, and this is what I think, this is what I feel from Interfaith. Bismillah. An experience. An interfaith experience. An experience beautiful, amazingly beautiful to the eyes and to the soul. An experience unique, inspiring, a beautiful, diverse tapestry, the human family. Engaging experience, bringing sparkle and bright light, the nur, the light that only comes from God. A light that illuminates in the intimacy of the dark, of the places unknown to each other that we share. Frightened, yes, at times, but trusting, for we feel the bond of that spirit and we share those intimacies. It gives birth to the innocence of what? The innocence of pure and simply honest joy and happiness. That joy and happiness that every human being wants. We are simple. We just want peace. We want to feel happy and good inside. And that's what I get from my experience. African American interfaith, Catholic interfaith, anybody's. If it's the spirit, I end up coming away full. And I end up coming away doing what we do, meaning African Americans, ready to step out on faith and attack with the armor of the greater. As I began, it is about the greater. And the greater spirit is in all of us. Thank you. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.